Karim Adeyemi was being linked with a move for Dortmund for about a year and about over a year now. They've agreed on a transfer fee. The only thing that they can't agree on is the bonuses and the sell-on clauses and all that rubbish. So apparently talks have slowed down. Both teams aren't moving on the position, which has brought Liverpool back in the conversation, who've apparently never stopped talking to Adeyemi and his representatives. Damon, we missed out on Haaland. The next strikers come through. Do you think we should maybe take a shot at him? I mean, the price has already been agreed. It's just sort of agreeing the main other things with Salzburg, isn't it?
I think it's a good price for what we're getting because of the age of him and the potential that he has. But I think there is better options out there right now. If Dortmund go back in for him, I think they will get him in the end. I think it could be like an £80 million striker, couldn't he? By the time he's finished at Dortmund, do we get him now and loan him back out? That could be an option. I think. Yeah, you know what? I would go for him if another striker wasn't available. I personally wouldn't put him at the top of the list. I'd rather go for someone like Jonathan David or Nunez, depending on how much Nunez is. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, Louis, this price tag of 35 million has been agreed for absolutely ages now, and it seemed like it was only a few steps away. But during the past few months, there's been a bit of talk that the Salzburg higher ups would like him to go to Leipzig. Surely we've got to be in and around the talks for 35 million. Like, you can't turn your nose up a player of his age and quality for that.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who you'd prefer, who your star man is, Karim Adeyemi, you look at his statistics certainly this season, and he fits our profile almost perfectly, especially with that 30 to 40 million pound price tag. The sweet spot for attackers for us for the past few seasons, if you look at things like expected goals, touches in the opposition box, shots per 90, he's pretty much on the sweet spot, maybe just below on some of those metrics. But the fact that he's only 20 years old as well, for me, at 30 million, if we are going to sign a striker, I think he's got to be well up there with people that I'd bother to get excited about as an actual viable option.
Matty, we've got a really good relationship with the Red Bull group. We've Takumi Minamino, they basically told us what the release clause was for him. We've bought Keita from them, other players too, who I can't think, but, we've been to their training ground. Our whole sort of club is now modelled off them. Surely if we go in, we've got a better chance of agreeing a deal with Salzburg and Dortmund, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the signs we've had from the Red Bull model, they haven't been fantastic for us, but I think Adeyemi would be different. Even when you look through his stats, like his possession stats and his pressures, very much mimic what Jota's were at Wolves, which excites me, because if you're getting someone like Darren who's going to come in and maybe have a similar impact to Jota, you're getting someone who's really, really exciting. And if I'm not mistaken, hasn't he got better stats at Salzburg than Haaland did? So he looks an exciting player. I think Dortmund are mad if they're arguing over fees or whatever with them, because they're about to lose Haaland. I'd go in for him. He's definitely one for the future, but it's whether I just think, would he come knowing that he's then got to break into that first team where he could maybe go to like Dortmund and start straight away? I mean, if we get him, I think he's a very, very exciting player, and I think he is one for the future, and it shows that Liverpool are then building for the future, and he could be the evolution of the front three. The front three eventually will then probably be the likes of Diaz, Jota, and potentially Adeyemi, and that's exciting. Like, it shows that we're evolving and we're preparing for the future. I don't think if he comes in, he's going to be starting week in, week out, but looking at his stats, he really, really excites me, and I'd love him at Liverpool. I really would.
Louis, Matty's just mentioned that there, but bringing this up, do we need another forward? I mean, as Matty said, he's got to break into the team. He's going to be behind a lot of players. He can play on the left and he can play up front, but on the left, he's going to be behind Mane, Diaz, Jota. Up front, straight away, he's probably going to be behind, Jota as well, Firmino. We saw Luis Diaz on the right-hand side last week, even though he can't play on the right-hand side. So, whereas with Dortmund, he's going to come straight in and he's probably going to be their starting striker for them. But with us, it's going to be hard to convince him, on the starting point, isn't it? We're not going to be able to offer him first team football straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose he could always look at the likes of Diaz and Jota who've come in, and Diaz especially has made such a massive impact. I think more this season than most of us would have thought. I think a lot of us thought maybe he'll play a bit part role and then come into his own next year, but he's instantly sort of knocked on the door of that front three. So maybe that would give him a bit of hope. The Klopp factor as well is massive in signing players. Like, we can't underestimate that. But we've also got to remember we've got Carvalho coming, and we weren't 100% sure, talking about it on the watch along yesterday, exactly where Carvalho would fit in, especially in that midfield. Like, which role suits him the most? Is it the right-sided 8? But therefore we've got quite a few players who play that role as well anyway. So maybe he is a backup for one of those front three positions as well. So you're right, it's absolutely stacked. But as we've spoken about many times this season, there's one or two members of that front three who you feel maybe are on their way out. Jen just asking for Salah news. Well, maybe we'll find something out in the next 2-3 months, and maybe that might open the door to another signing. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think he falls in the range of a striker that we, Damon, that we typically sign. As Matty said, the 35 to 40 million. He's 20 years old, 21, something like that. 21, yeah, 21 years old. I'm going to say this loosely, but he's German. Probably sort of looks up to Klopp in a certain way. It's not out of realms of possibility that Liverpool do a little backdoor deal here, is it?
It does fit the bill, doesn't it? It does fit everything we look for in a forward and in a striker. He could play all up the front three, so it does fit Jurgen Klopp and does fit the Liverpool mould as it is now. Like I said earlier, I think a loan back would be possibly the best move, because like Firmino, Salah, Mane, they are getting on a little bit. They're going to be needed to be replaced at some point. So if we get Adeyemi now at 35 million, loan back is probably the best thing we can do and get him the game time that he needs. Yes, Dortmund can offer him first team now, but if he wants a cracking future, then come to this club. This club's got the best development in the world at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've saw it with Kostas Tsimikas. He's not going to be getting first team football, but he's, at the end of the day, when we look back at the history books, he's going to be in the squad who won all them trophies. So, it's I think at Liverpool as well, we're going to be challenging for every single competition now for the foreseeable future. That's 60, 70 games a season. If we do get into the Club World Cup, you're pushing 80 games a season. So we realistically need 2 squads throughout the whole season. We saw that this year, and bringing Adeyemi in with the likes of Takumi Minamino and Divock Origi both look set to leave. I can see why we're still in talks with them. Don't think it's going to happen, if I'm being honest, but you never know. We move